This is the Irons guitar, a tribute to West Ham United and the first guitar I've ever built. But just when it was nearly finished, I made a mistake that nearly destroyed it. Here's the story behind how I built it and saved it. Hi, my name is Kyle. This video isn't going to be your usual time-lapse guitar build, although I love those videos. This is the story of a guitar nearly 20 years in the making, and the mistakes, the triumphs, and the passions behind it. So, the origin story of this guitar. This originally was a Washburn MG 300 series, Mercury 2. I don't know a lot about Washburn guitars, but I did look that up. In fact, here I've got some of the pieces to show you, the original. So this is from the headstock, that cover plate for the screw, and this was the neck plate. In about 2009, the Washburn guitar was given to me. It was given to me by a friend. I played in a lot of metal bands, a lot too. I was in a few garage bands as a kid, as a teenager. This was, I believe I was 17 or 18 when I was given this guitar. So my friend knew that I was very much passionate about music and guitar playing. And as I remember, he and his dad had found the Washburn guitar at a garage sale, but they were never able to fix it up. It was missing screws, other things. There was a lot of rust, I remember. Anyway, so he gave it to me, and it was a beautiful gift, despite it being really beat up. I distinctly remember that day. I know that I'm going to turn this into something special. So I did. When I was older, I had money saved, and it was just all things aligned. It was the right time for me to build the guitar, and even in my playing techniques and my growth learning. While I am definitely not where I think I should be for how many years I've been playing and practicing, it was the right time to have a guitar with a lot of the features that the Washburn had been built with, and I was ready to turn that into something that I personally preferred in the styles and techniques that I like. But why West Ham? So you can tell that I am a passionate West Ham United fan, and I like my music. I've been following since I was a teenager. But if you know about the club's heritage being very much sort of that rags to riches story, it's hardworking, it's community. I just felt like there was a lot of relationship in the artist and music world with that, but specifically like progressive metal, the type of music that I am passionate about listening and learning from. What's more hardcore than like the Irons guitar? I mean, metal working and metal music. That sounds great. It didn't take me too long to think of how I wanted to build, or what I wanted to build out of the guitar, it being inspired by West Ham. So I knew this guitar would be a tribute, and it would be forged like iron and made to scream. But it wasn't without a lot of experience and knowledge of guitar playing. I of course, throughout all those years of growing and learning in my own technique, I'm following other guitarists. I'm watching what hardware that they choose and like their signature guitars, for example. Or honestly, when I was 18 and I got the Washburn, I didn't know what a Floyd Rose bridge was or what I could do with it. I guess I was so amateur in my playing that I didn't even gravitate to something like that. But now I do know what that is, and I know what that sound is. I know what a flutter sounds like when I hear it in a recording, and I'm attracted to that, and I want to do that kind of stuff. So I was really ready to build a guitar that suited what I like to do. And then also the paint style, hydrodipping is what this is called. When I knew I wanted to make a West Ham United guitar, I've had to figure, well, what do I want it to look like? I've got the colors already, the claret and blue, and gold as that accent color. I had to learn how to hydro dip, and there was a lot of education that happened. I didn't just wake up one day and think, here we go, I'm gonna go make my checklist and build a guitar tomorrow. It was hard, but it was a lot of fun. But yeah, so let's just talk about some of the hardware. So this is actually, check this out first. Here's the original Floyd Rose, licensed under Floyd Rose patents. So this is the original Floyd Rose that came with the guitar. I believe, I think I did look up the Washburn serial number. This is a early 2000s model. Despite that being an early 2000s model, they're still making Floyd Rose pickups that will fit the same cutout, and it's very similar. So I'm very fortunate that I was able to get a gold one to match the rest of the accents that I wanted out of the guitar's design. Yeah, so I'm really happy with the Floyd Rose here. You may not be able to see it. It kind of looks a bit more silver now, but there's also the gold EMG pickups here. So I think these are the SA, just the standard EMG single coils, and this is an 81 humbucker pickup. I actually had this humbucker and another one here. These are, when I mentioned I was playing guitar, I was building and modifying a guitar as a teenager, this is the same one I had from 2009 or whenever that was. So I did do a little bit of rewiring to make it fit the updated pots and selector switch. There's a little bit of a circuit board in there now. It's not so, let's say, modular as it used to be. So anyway, there's the pickups, and then I've got the locks here on the head, and then if you can see the detail of the screw cover, I put the hammers on there, and then these are Grover locking tuners. Really small. Actually, these weren't the original ones that I wanted, or at least the ones I originally had in mind, but this headstock was a tight fit. So after taking some measurements and looking at some other products available, it seemed like these were going to be the best quality for what I wanted, and that could fit on the headstock. Despite it being, from what I understand, to be pretty standard, I wasn't able to just get any, at least not without making more modifications than I needed to. So during the build, I also, sorry, I've got the neck plate also golden. Yeah, so there's all the hardware, and I'm really happy with the way the guitar sounds, and like I said, the pickups being EMGs, they're louder, made for metal, made to scream, and the battery is stored in the back there, and now I actually know what to do with a flutter, and some of these things, while I never used to do them in my usual guitar playing, now they're actually part of my sound. And not only that, the look of it, really all fits the West Ham vibe, I think. I want to talk about the hydro dip process, and if I have some photos, I'll definitely share those, sort of the before and after. Even though I didn't film during the entire build process, I did take a couple images. The hydro dipping was really complicated, and like I said, I wanted a mostly white and gold guitar. Of course, I've got the accents and the right colors, but if you see the opacity of that claret burgundy color, it's different, and it's most bold and opaque on the headstock, and this is really what I needed for the entire guitar. But when I had this huge bucket of water, and you drip in the dyes, and actually, by the way, I hand mixed that claret color. I really wanted to get the claret and blue just as close as I possibly could to the actual like brand colors. I'm very particular about that. So, being a perfectionist, I definitely had a look. And not only that, I had a look of how, where I wanted the swirls to be. And, I mentioned I wanted some white space to keep it a clean look. But it was very frustrating. This is not the first version, the first dip. This, I think, is the second dip of the headstock. And I did, the headstock being smaller, I was able to use a smaller bucket. And I think in that smaller bucket, I was able to control the spread of the dye a lot better. Well, essentially, it isn't able to spread further in a smaller container, whereas with the full body, I need a container that is large enough to fit it, but that this doesn't consume all of the area within a container or a bucket. So what happens when I put it in is it kind of moves the dye further away, and that ended up having varying opacities. So that was really frustrating, actually. And I was like, I can't believe I can't control this. I need this color to be uniform throughout the whole guitar. So I was just angrily sanding away back layers. But eventually I was able to kind of figure that out, that if I could just change how I dip it in and how I move, just use a toothpick across the bucket of water so that the dye just floats on the surface of water, and you can move a toothpick to finely swirl the colors together. So I had to move past that, but this is 99% me happy with it. I don't like that this area is not as opaque as this. I wish it were uniform. I really like the back. Actually, I like the back a lot, how these swirls came out. So that was kind of frustrating, but ultimately, I really love the colors and the design. So the headstock, by the way, is my favorite part, and you can see that I've got the custom lettering and that logo. Actually, give me 1 second, and I'll show you what I used. Okay, never mind. I don't have any of that. So I used I looked up, there was another video. It actually could have been the StuMac videos. They shared a brand, a special type of paper that can be used. And I went to a local printing shop that would have the highest quality printing inks available, because a lot like the dye of the hydrodip, I need it to be as opaque as possible. And unfortunately, you can still see through this. It was really the choice. I mean, if I wanted the letters in black, that would have come out a lot more opaque. But I really wanted that glossy, glittery gold lettering, and I decided to go for that to be printed, and then it's just lacquered on top. I mentioned StuMac a lot. I've got actually right here some leftover lacquer that I use. This is what it looks like. I used a lot of cans of lacquer, but it was actually by choice. And in their videos, they in that video series detailing how to paint your own guitar, they've got everything you need to know. But I went heavy on the neck, so I am the type of guitarist that actually really prefers a glossy, smooth guitar neck. A lot of guitarists don't like it because their hands will start to sweat and it sticks. I've got another Paul Reed Smith guitar that also has a glossy neck, and that one, any guitars could do this, but it seems to be a bit of a signature with the glossy Paul Reed Smith standard editions, that gloss really rolls well right up to the side of the fretboard, and I always loved that, but it was never smooth enough for me. I really wanted a whole lot. It's just smoother than glass almost. So I was able to achieve that, and so that's something that I'm really proud of. Definitely a triumph of mine and of the guitar, that this is the smoothest guitar neck that I have ever touched. Not to say that I'm some professional guitar player and I've touched thousands of guitars. I certainly haven't, but I've had enough to say that this is exceptionally smooth. In fact, I don't even think I've ever wiped it down, as it's already been a bit beat up and played a lot. And it just continues. I mean, it's just so easy to keep clean. I could just brush it away like that. It's really nice, and I laid it on, like I said, I laid it on thick on the side, so it's so comfortable to play. I've got a Gibson that is a satin finish, and again, you know, players will think, well, my hands aren't sweating, it's easier to slide, but I'm telling you, this super crazy high gloss, it's the way to go. Loved it. You know, I also wanted it to feel very professional, and like we're comparing it to, like I mentioned, Paul Reed Smith. They're like some of the best guitars, right? And their prices certainly suggest that. You know, I wanted it to feel like this guitar was built by someone who loved playing, and I hope that I am that kind of person. About the neck, though, there was a disaster that I told you I would share. So it was the last day of the build. I mean, I had it clear coated and just everything was. I was just so excited. We were so close to being done. Here we go. But during the assembly, these neck screws here, the original ones, were too long. So while I was building the guitar, I had also been liberal on purpose in sanding down some areas, and it was by choice, by the way that I wanted the guitar's profile to be and how I wanted it to sit here. And then, you know, changing out some of the hardware also removed some width back here. But anyway, these screws were too long, so I was doing the final assembly. I was putting the screws in, and it started to push the fretboard out, and I was freaking out, and I could not believe. I mean, this is the fretboard is like, it's the most important part. That, I mean, everything happens on the fretboard. You need this to be just perfect, and I ruined it. I was devastated. Fortunately, I stopped it before like going all the way through the fretboard, but it did push out 2 of the frets. So I stopped what I was doing. I called for help, and we were able to repair the wood, press the frets back in. And it is a flaw here. So that beautiful, glossy, wonderful edge work that I worked so hard on, it is kind of ruined just on these 2 frets. Most especially here on this side, you can't notice a thing on that one. Repaired that very well. So looking at it now, though, it's hard to believe that this used to be a busted up Washburn guitar, really only worth like retail $200-$300. But the reality is that I think it's priceless. I mean, this is a guitar that I love. It's a guitar just for me. I built just for me, and I mean, I could never sell it. Not that I think anyone would want to buy it. It's very specific, a West Ham guitar. This was my first build, but it took years of learning, and I'm really passionate about it, and I'm going to continue to play. And I thank you so much for watching, and I do hope you enjoyed hearing a little bit about that story, about my story, very briefly with this guitar. And I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Maybe I'll build another one. Thanks.